I was bullied, and the ones who bullied me said they were coming to my house. I begged them not to, because they didn't know. I'm the only normal person in my family. My dad is a serial killer. My mom's insane in her own twisted way. My brother's a full-blown sociopath. Only me, I'm the fragile, pitiful little white flower among them. 01. I came home that day feeling unbearably heavy inside. It was my dad who opened the door. He was wearing an apron and smiling so warmly. "Hungry? I made you some snacks," he said. His smile grew wider and wider, and my blood ran cold. There were dark stains all over his apron. Blood stains. Fresh ones. Clearly, they just splattered there moments ago. Dad followed my horrified gaze, looked down, and chuckled. "Ah, I got it dirty again. Your mom's going to scold me for this later." I took off my shoes with shaking hands and stepped inside. There, tied to a chair, was a young woman. Her hair was a tangled mess, her face smeared with blood, and her lips, her upper and lower lips, had been sewn shut with thread. She saw me come in and made a muffled, desperate sound, her eyes wide with a plea for help. My body trembled, and I quickly looked away. "This lady," Dad said softly, "abandoned her little girl, barely 5 years old, just to go fool around with some guy. That poor child was hit by a car, and, well, you can imagine what was left of her. Can you guess how much she must have suffered before she died?" I sat stiffly on the couch, not daring to look in their direction. Moments later, a shriek split the air, a raw, blood-curdling scream that lasted for what felt like forever, and then faded into silence. Dad took off his glasses, wiped the blood from the lenses, and smiled at me. "Now, Daddy's going to cut her into little pieces. Might be a bit unpleasant to watch. Go back to your room, okay?" The moment he gave permission, I bolted. As I ran upstairs, I heard him sigh behind me. "This kid," he muttered, "really doesn't take after us at all." By then, my legs were trembling so hard I could barely stand. Cold sweat drenched my body. It wasn't the first time I'd seen my dad kill someone. The first time I was only 5. He slit a man's throat right in front of me. He told me that man had beaten his wife for years, until she finally couldn't take it and jumped off a building. But the man never got punished. So my dad decided to punish him himself. I took a deep breath, trying hard to calm down. But what scared me most wasn't my dad. It was tomorrow night. The bullies who tormented me said they were coming over. Just thinking about their faces made my stomach twist in pain. I had begged them again and again not to come. They just yanked my hair, slapped me across the face, and laughed. They said they wanted to see what kind of family could raise a freak like me. But they had no idea. No one who's ever come to my house has walked out alive. 02. There was a knock on the door. When I opened it, my mom was standing there. She had a beautiful, harmless-looking face, but I knew better than anyone just how terrifying she really was. She smiled and stared at me. "Take off your clothes." "Mom," I looked at her almost pleading, but my hands still trembled as I undressed, revealing a body covered in bruises and scars. "Who did this to you?" Her smile grew even brighter, but I knew that meant she was furious. And when she got angry, she did horrible things. When I was 5, a boy in kindergarten pulled a handful of my hair. The next day, that boy went missing. The news said he'd fallen off a building by accident, but I knew the truth, because in his clenched fist, they found a lollipop, the same kind my mom always bought for me. In elementary school, there was a teacher who looked down on poor kids. She used to mock me all the time, even when I did chores with my desk mate. She'd make me do the hardest, dirtiest work. Once, when I fell with a heavy bucket in the bathroom, she just stood there laughing. I didn't dare tell my family. I hated that teacher, sure, but I didn't want my family to do something awful again. Didn't matter. My mom somehow found out anyway. Not long after, I saw a news report. That same teacher had been found dead. She'd been tortured to death by a group of thugs. Every bone in her hands and legs had been broken. When I saw the photos of those thugs, my blood froze, because I'd seen those same men before, chatting and laughing with my mom, right near our house. 03. My mother's cold fingers brushed against my wounds. I snapped back to reality and shivered violently. She sighed softly. "Sometimes, I really wonder, are you even my child?" I looked at her face and said nothing. Because I knew I wasn't their real child at all. 04. I've always been soft-hearted. I cry easily over almost anything. I still remember when I was little, my cat slipped out the door when I opened it. By the time I found her, she was barely breathing. Someone had hurt her so badly. One of her legs was broken, and one of her eyes was gone. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. My brother watched me quietly, then said coldly, "You don't want her to suffer anymore, do you?" Tears blurred my eyes as I nodded. The next second, he twisted the cat's neck. The sound of the bone snapping still echoes in my mind. And I'll never forget the slight smile on his face. Later, my dad checked the security cameras. He found out 2 boys from our neighborhood had done it. We want to talk to their parents. But the parents just shrugged it off. "It's just a stray cat," one said. "How much do you want?" "We'll pay you." "Call the police?" "Don't be ridiculous," the father added. "Our kid's only 14. And honestly, your cat ran out on its own. If anything, it scared our son. I should be the one asking for compensation." The boy peeked from behind his mom, grinning smugly. "Mom, that cat scratched us first." "You hear that?" the woman sneered. "We didn't even ask for money yet. Who knows if your cat had some kind of disease?" I burst into tears. "I saw the video. They stepped on my cat's tail first. She only scratched because she was scared." The boy didn't even look guilty. "I didn't do it on purpose," he said with a smirk. "But animals that scratch people deserve what they get." I ran forward, furious, trying to argue with him. But his mom shoved me hard, and I fell to the ground. My brother helped me up and said calmly, "She's right. Sometimes the only way to deal with something that hurts people is to get rid of it." There was something dark and chilling in his tone. My parents stayed silent, smiling faintly at the woman and her son. The woman seemed unsettled. Maybe she'd never met parents like ours. She hurriedly ended the conversation and sent us away. A few nights later, I woke up crying and went to the kitchen for some water. The front door creaked open. My brother stepped inside. His face was shadowed in the dark, but I caught a faint metallic smell. And on his jacket, a dark red stain. "Brother, where did you go?" I whispered, trembling. Even though deep down, I already knew. He grinned. "I just took care of some animals that like to hurt others." The next morning, the neighborhood was full of police cars. The 2 boys had been found brutally attacked. That's my family. They say they love me. They say they protect me. But all I feel is fear. 05. Mom pinched my cheek gently. "What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" Then she smiled. "I was just joking earlier. You're my precious baby, the one I carried for 10 months. She handed me an envelope. "Nadia, there's a letter for you." I took it confused and opened it. My pupils shrank as I froze. Inside was a photo. In the picture, I was lying on the ground, someone's foot pressing on my stomach. The kids who bullied me were laughing, pouring glue over my head. I remembered exactly what they'd said that day. "Pretty girls like you don't deserve to have nice hair." Just looking at the photo made my body ache again. On the back, there was a message. "We can't wait to visit Nadia's house and see how the whole family of losers' lives." And next to it, a cute little smiley face. Cold sweat ran down my forehead. I instinctively tried to hide the photo behind me. But Mom was faster. She took it from my hands effortlessly. My heart pounded as I watched her. Her expression didn't change. She was still smiling softly. "Nadia," she said, "the wounds on your body, do they do this to you? And you cut your hair because of them too." I nodded nervously, pressing my cheek against her hand. "Mom, please. I can transfer to another school. We can tell the teachers. I'll talk to them. I'll make them stop. Just don't do anything to them, please." My voice trembled like a small animal begging for mercy. Before, whenever I made Mom mad, this usually worked. She would forgive me. This time, she smiled. Her eyes were dark, almost black. "Nadia, I love it when you try to act cute. But this time, that won't help you." Her voice was soft and calm. "Didn't I teach you that we should always welcome guests warmly? How could we possibly turn them away?" She stroked my face tenderly, then whispered in my ear, "We'll make sure they have a night they'll never, ever forget." My body went cold all over. 06. That night, I had a nightmare. I dreamed I was 8 years old again. I was standing barefoot in the dark living room. The lights were off. The door to my parents' bedroom was slightly open, a thin line of light spilling through the crack. I could hear them talking inside. Curious, I hugged my doll and tiptoed closer. I don't know if bringing this child home was the right thing to do. Are you regretting it? Not exactly. I just think this kid's too different. Well, if we ever get tired of her, we could just get rid of her. It's not like she'd be the first buried in our garden, huh? A chill ran on my spine. At 8 years old, I felt like I'd fallen straight into a frozen hell. Then silence. Slowly, their faces appeared in the crack of the door, both smiling in perfect unison. They looked right at me and said, "Eavesdropping on your parents? That's a very naughty thing to do, little one." 07. I woke up suddenly, drenched in cold sweat. That one conversation I overheard when I was 8 had turned into a nightmare that still strangled me like an invisible rope. I never knew when that rope might tighten. I wasn't their real child, and because of that, I wasn't like them at all. If one day they got tired of me, I was afraid they'd get rid of me, just like they did to the others, people who never walked out of our house again. I turned my head and froze. The door to my room was slightly open, but I was sure I had locked it before going to bed. Someone was standing quietly in the darkness. I recognized the expensive leather shoes immediately. "Brother," I whispered, trembling. He stepped out of the shadows. He was usually so busy with work that I hadn't seen him for nearly 3 months. Now he stood by my bed, tall and calm, looking down at me with that unreadable face. "Why are you home?" I tried to smile, though my lips were stiff. Out of everyone in my family, it was my brother who scared me the most. Because whenever he was home, no matter how many locks I put on my door, I'd always wake up in the middle of the night and find him sitting by my bed, silently watching me. He reached out and brushed his fingers over my ear. His hands were cold. I shivered, forcing myself not to move away. I had learned long ago that showing fear only made him worse. "Mom called me," he said quietly. "She told me your classmates are visiting tomorrow. She wants the whole family to be here." My back went stiff. His smile deepened. "We should all welcome our guests properly, shouldn't we, Nadia?" He pinched my ear lightly, then whispered, "And besides, I missed you." He took off his coat and sat on the edge of my bed. His eyes glinted in the dark, sharp and hungry, like a snake's. "Why can't you hold your brother the way you hold your teddy bear?" His voice was low, deep, and almost gentle, but it sent chills through me. "I'm tired, brother. Can you go now?" I murmured, pale and shaking. He stared at me for a long moment, then leaned down and kissed my forehead. "Good night, Nadia." He walked toward the door and disappeared into the dark hallway. I pulled the blanket over my head, curling into a ball, but I knew he hadn't really gone. I could still feel him there, his gaze cold and sticky, watching me from the shadows. 08. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. Somehow, I'd fallen asleep again after that. I got up, washed my face, and stared at my reflection. The girl in the mirror looked pale and fragile. I took a deep breath and told myself, whatever happens, I can't let them come to this house today. In a corner of the living room, there were several large black garbage bags. They were tied tightly, but I could smell something faint and metallic coming from them. My stomach churned. I didn't need to guess what was inside, but something felt off. There were fewer bags than before. Breakfast time. Dad called cheerfully. "I made your favorite, meat porridge." He wore an apron and smiled as if everything was perfectly normal. The smell of cooked meat filled the air. My brother was already sitting at the table, dressed neatly in a suit. He scooped a bowl of porridge and took a slow sip. I sat down, staring at the steaming bowl in front of me. Floating inside were chunks of bright red meat. A terrible thought crossed my mind. My brother looked at me and smiled faintly. "Why aren't you eating, Nadia? It tastes much better when it's fresh." That was enough. I bolted to the bathroom and threw up. From the living room, Mom's voice drifted over, half scolding, half amused. "Stop teasing your sister. You know how sensitive she is. It's just pork from the market this morning." Hearing that, I let out a shaky breath and sank to the floor. When I turned my head, my brother was standing in the doorway, smiling. I had forgotten. He loved seeing me terrified. 09. I refused the family driver and took the bus to school, dazed and hollow. The moment I walked into class, every pair of eyes turned toward me. Their stares were sharp, hungry, like predators spotting prey. I walked to my seat, uneasy. As soon as I sat down, I knew something was wrong. A low snicker came from behind me. When I tried to stand, my skirt wouldn't move. It was stuck to the chair. A second later, the sound of fabric tearing filled the room. Everyone turned. My skirt was ripped. No one laughed out loud, but the smirks and glances said it all. My face burned hot, then turned completely white. "Oh no," said Lacey in a sweet, fake voice. "Who put glue on Nadia's chair? Poor thing. Here, take my jacket." She wrapped it gently around my waist, pretending to comfort me. I flinched under her touch. "Quentin, bring Nadia a new chair," she ordered lightly. The tall boy with a buzz-cut smiled and obeyed. But in his eyes, I saw something cruel flash by. "There you go, Nadia," Lacey said softly, forcing me to sit. The next moment, pain shot up my legs, sharp and unbearable. I gasped, my breath catching in my throat. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead. Lacey leaned close, whispering in my ear, "You know, back in the old days, they used to punish girls like you in very creative ways. But I'm kinder. I only cover your chair with thumbtacks. You should thank me." I couldn't speak. I just sat there, trembling, my breath coming in shallow bursts. The bell rang. Lacey smiled sweetly and walked back to her desk. I could feel it, warm liquid seeping through the fabric. It hurt so much I almost fainted. The teacher walked in. When our eyes met, she saw my pale face, my trembling hands. But she quickly looked away and opened her book. I had told her before. I had begged her for help. She said she would talk to me after class. That day, she really did take me aside, to a quiet room, saying she wanted to listen to understand. But when I walked in, Lacey and her friends were already there, smiling brightly. That day hurt. It always does. And yet, somehow I got used to it. Maybe because deep down, I knew the truth. Lacey's father was a powerful man. He donated money to the school. No one would dare go against her. I turned my head toward the window, and just for a second, I thought I saw a familiar figure watching from outside. 10. I couldn't take the pain anymore and jumped up suddenly. My desk mate gasped. "Your clothes are covered in blood." Lacey immediately said, "Teacher, I think Nadia needs to go to the bathroom." "I'll take her." "I can go myself," I muttered. The teacher glanced at me coldly. "Let Lacey take her then." Whispers erupted across the classroom. I heard she can't even afford sanitary pads. Uses tissues instead. EW, no wonder it's all blood. I opened my mouth to defend myself, then dropped my head, saying nothing. Lacey pressed her long, fake nails into my arm. It hurt like hell. She smiled as she dragged me out of the classroom, then suddenly shoved me to the floor. I hit the ground hard. She looked down at me with an unreadable expression. I stared back. When had everything become like this? So many thoughts raced through my mind. When I first transferred, no one bullied me. People were kind. This was a prestigious school. Maybe it was because I took the bus every day. Maybe it was because I didn't fit in. Or maybe because one day the senior Lacey liked stopped me after class, blushing, and confessed he liked me. But I only wanted to do the right thing for them. All those who wanted to be my friend or confessed disappeared suddenly one day, because my brother held me tightly and whispered, almost like a lover, "I'm sorry. I'm too jealous. Why can they have Nadia's heart when she never truly smiled at me?" Suddenly, sharp pain shot through my fingertips. Lacey's designer shoes were pressing into them. "Nadia, I'm really looking forward to visiting your house tonight. You better entertain us properly. Make sure we have fun." Her beautiful face carried an innocent cruelty. I stared at her, then managed to choke out one word, numb in my throat. "Okay." Lacey froze. She hadn't expected me to agree. But soon, a crueler smile spread across her face. "I can't wait." Yes, I really couldn't wait either. 11. After school, Lacey and her friends flanked me on both sides, making sure I couldn't run. Outside the school gate, a white Maybach waited. A tall man leaned against the car door. My body instinctively recoiled. It was my brother. "Nadia, I'm here to take you home," he said with a calm smile. I saw a flicker of surprise in Lacey's eyes. Her smile widened. She leaned toward me, speaking softly. Nadia, why didn't you tell me you had such a handsome brother? I said nothing. Lacey stepped forward politely and introduced herself. Hello, brother. We're Nadia's friends. I'm Lacey, and Nadia invited us over today. My brother raised an eyebrow and smiled. Welcome. Why try to get into the passenger seat? Lacey subtly blocked me. I don't feel well. The front seat is more comfortable. Can I sit there, brother? Of course, he said with a smile. His eyes slid slowly from Lacey's face down to her exposed, fair legs. Her face flushed red immediately. Vivian nudged my shoulder, whispering mischievously, Hey, your brother's got his eye on Lacey, huh? Yes, he had. I knew him well enough to realize he was already imagining what to do with those legs. If he marries her, she'll be your sister-in-law. Nadia, that would be nice for you, Vivian whispered. She wanted to see me scared, but she was wrong. I turned my head and gave her a reckless, defiant smile. Vivian froze. 12. Lacey plopped into the front passenger seat, but immediately screamed and jumped up. A small red spot appeared at the top of her thigh. A tiny tack had pierced her leg. My brother feigned just the right amount of surprise and concern. Well, me, all tuck. Let's get you to a hospital. Lacey's eyes filled with shock and confusion as she looked at him. I remembered the shadow I saw outside the window before, and my stomach sank. He had been watching me all along. I clenched my clothes tightly, and my gaze met his in the rearview mirror. A slight curve of his lips, pleasure, clear as day. I quickly looked away. 13. We took Lacey to the hospital. While they treated her, she cried and instinctively grabbed my brother's jacket. Then she panicked and let go. Sorry, it's okay. It was my mistake, he said softly. Lacey smirked and looked at me triumphantly. I went pale, shoulders trembling. Vivian whispered, You're scared he'll be taken by Lacey, huh? No, it wasn't that. If she did take him, it might have been better. Before he dealt with his prey, he was surprisingly gentle. I was terrified, completely frozen in fear. In a daze, I imagined the three of them turning into bones. From the moment they got into the car, they hadn't stood a chance. Eventually, they all came back to my house. Quentin looked around in quiet shock. Nadia, your family isn't poor at all. Why'd you take the bus every day? I thought you were poor. He trailed off. I snorted inside. So if they knew I was rich, they wouldn't bully me? Lacey stayed polite and smiled, greeting my parents. Mom made coffee for everyone. Nadia has 3 good friends? She never told me about you. Quentin blushed at how young and beautiful my mom was. At that moment, he looked like an ordinary, innocent boy. I quietly observed his reaction. But I never forgot the cruelty on his face when he had punched me repeatedly in the stomach. Quentin sipped his coffee and suddenly noticed the black garbage bags in the corner. What's in these, Auntie Uncle? My hands clenched the cup so tightly my knuckles turned white. Dad smiled slowly. What's inside? You can go see for yourself. Quentin stood up and walked toward the bags. My heart leapt into my throat. My parents' smiles widened. He opened a bag and covered his mouth in shock. 14. Ugh, it stinks. These meats are all spoiled, so disgusting. Quentin stepped back, grimacing. Inside the plastic bag were chunks of meat with blood on them. A terrible smell wafted out. Lacey and Vivian instinctively covered their noses. This meat is just leftover scraps from the market, Dad explained cheerfully. I was going to feed them to stray dogs nearby. I let out a small sigh of relief. Quentin, being closest to the bags, turned pale from the smell and kept stepping back. Lacey suddenly said, Actually, Nadia has a funny nickname in class. Mom smiled. Oh, in a light, quick voice, Lacey said, Bitch. The room froze. She smiled at my parents, expecting a reaction. But my parents, and even my brother, remained completely calm. Not even a twitch of the lips. Mom chuckled lightly, as if it were a funny joke. If we were describing Nadia as a cute little dog, that would fit, Dad said happily. Lacey's smile faltered. Vivian and Quentin looked at my parents as if they were crazy. Vivian whispered in my ear, Are your parents stupid? Can't they get the hint? Her voice wasn't quiet, everyone could hear. But my parents acted as if they hadn't heard a thing. Vivian angrily took a gulp of coffee. Suddenly, Her expression changed. She spit something out. Her eyes widened. What is this? How is there a human finger? She screamed in horror. Everyone else frowned at her. That's a finger, a human finger. Nadia, your parents killed someone. Vivian stammered. Vivian, calm down. Look carefully at what you actually spat out, I said evenly. She took a shaky breath, looked again, and paled. Ow! How did it turn into sugar cubes? I swear I just saw a finger, she whispered, trembling. Finger? You watch too many horror movies, Quentin sneered. I looked calmly out the window. A bed of unusually bright flowers grew there. Rumors said if you grind these flowers into a juice and add them to food, they could cause hallucinations. 15. Vivian took a long time to calm down. But soon, Quentin started acting strange. He kept glancing at the plastic bags nervously. Do you hear that? The rustling, it's coming from the bags. Are there rats inside? Lacey frowned. What are you talking about? You didn't hear it? Quentin jumped up from the sofa. His face darkened. The rustling, it's loud. How could you not hear it? Suddenly, his expression froze. He looked like he'd seen something terrifying, a broken whimper escaping his throat. I had never seen him so scared. Curiosity rose in me. What had he seen? The next moment, a foul liquid seeped from him. Lacey and Vivian screamed. Quentin, are you sick? But he didn't seem to hear them. He stared at the bag. It's coming out. The woman. She's crawling out. Don't you see? She's coming out. He muttered like a madman. 16. Meanwhile, my parents' and brother's smiles reached their fullest. Vivian was the first to break. She cried, This place is too weird. I want to go home. Lacey hadn't seen anything yet, but her furrowed brows showed unease. We're leaving, she said. As she stood to grab her bag, her eyes locked on me. No, impossible. Her face turned pale as she stared at me, whispering, You're supposed to be dead. Tessa, you're dead. I knew then that Lacey was hallucinating too. Tessa, I had heard that name. Before I transferred, Tessa had been the one Lacey and her friends bullied. She hadn't survived the torment and jumped off the school roof. Her death was quietly erased, leaving no trace of consequence. Hearing Lacey call out her name, Vivian panicked and dragged her toward the door. But soon, fear replaced their expressions. 8 locks sealed the front door tight. My brother stood there, smiling at them. Guests can't leave until they've had fun, he said. There, a hunt was about to begin. I curled up on the sofa, trembling uncontrollably. 17. Lacey and her friends fainted. When they woke, they were tied up tightly. I stood behind my parents and brother, my mind a mess of tension and confusion. Are you crazy? Why are you tying us up? Quentin struggled violently when he came to, but soon he realized these seemingly thin ropes were impossibly tight. The more he struggled, the tighter they became. Vivian sobbed, What are you doing? Why are we tied up? Lacey, pale but calmer than the others, said, I suggest you stay quiet, or my father won't forgive you. My brother tilted his head slightly and crouched in front of her. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. I could see pure fear on her face. Dad, she whispered. A low, dark laugh came from him. The father you speak of, is it him? He pulled out his phone. On the screen, a naked man hung upside down, hands and feet bound, struggling and whimpering in fear. You're telling me this fat, greasy thing is your father? Lacey could no longer keep her composure. Let my dad go, you lunatic, she shouted. I heard your father was a butcher before he got his government post, he said calmly. He didn't kill like everyone else. He enjoyed the process. When the pigs were still aware, he would cut their limbs and skin them slowly. He believed meat tasted best when the animals suffered greatly before death. Lacey panted, her chest rising and falling violently. Her body trembled. 18. What do you want from us? Lacey gritted her teeth, fighting back terror. My patience is giving you a chance, Lacey, a chance to live, my brother said, his voice unervingly gentle. Between your father and you, only one can survive. Now, I'm giving you the choice. Vivian screamed through tears. You want to kill us? Murder is illegal. You'll be sentenced to death. Quentin shouted and struggled, demanding to be let go. Mom stroked my hair tenderly. Scared, aren't you? Poor things, but we can't let you go. Remember how scared Nadia was when you bullied her? Vivian begged, I'm sorry, Nadia. Please let me go. I'll act like nothing ever happened. I won't bully you again. I'll do whatever you say. Even Quentin, the one who could punch me until my nose bled, looked at me now with a humbled, pleading expression. I'll do anything for you, Nadia. I won't follow Lacey's orders anymore. The thing she made me do, it wasn't me. I stared at them blankly. Their desperation sounded almost like noise to me. Dad looked at me lovingly. Nadia, what do you want to do? Mom glanced at me too. I clenched my hands tightly, as if pain itself could keep me calm. What should I say? What could I do? After a long pause, I whispered, you decide. The color drained from their faces. It was strange how even living people could start to look like corpses. 19. Brother said, Lacey, my patience is running out. 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Pain and fear crossed Lacey's face. Finally, she gritted her teeth and said, I want to survive myself. A smile spread across my brother's face. As you wish. On the surveillance screen, a giant electric saw appeared beneath the man. The next moment, a horrible scream erupted, like the sound of a slaughterhouse. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. The man was sawed in half while still alive. Lacey screamed, breaking down completely. I watched her quietly. 20. Vivian was so terrified she lost control of her bladder. She shook all over like a sieve. Quentin went pale, unable to speak from fear. They hadn't expected my brother to actually do it. Even killing someone so cruelly, his expression remained unchanged. Dad's dead. Can you spare me now? Brother, please. I'll do anything, Lacey begged. I admit I did wrong to Nadia. I'll change. We're still kids. I'll follow Nadia, please. Brother lowered his head and looked at her with pity. Do you really believe what a madman says? I read Nadia's diary, he said slowly, sighing. She begged you to spare her. She's kind. She couldn't bear to see anyone die for her. She gave you chances to stop, but you didn't. Now your chances are gone. What was Nadia's nickname in class? Yes, the bitch. Nadia, your brother will show you what a real bitch looks like, all right? His dark eyes locked on me. Memories of blood and fear surged in my mind. My hands shook uncontrollably. I knew what he intended. A chill ran down my spine. The room seemed to turn damp and icy. 21. Mom sighed. Enough, stop asking, Nadia. You know she's soft-hearted. Lacey, realizing my brother wouldn't spare her, cursed at us with the cruelest words she could find. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he inspected Lacey's legs. Legs are too long. Dog legs are short. We'll have to cut a lot off. Hands are too long, too. Despair consumed Lacey. She remembered how he had stared at her legs before getting into the car. So back then, he had already planned to turn her into a dog. Nadia, what's coming next will be bloody. I know you don't like it, my brother smiled. Mom held my hand. Nadia, come downstairs. Leave the dirty work to the men. Nadia, don't go. Please, save me. Nadia, you can't just watch us die. I'm sorry. We were wrong. Save us. They screamed and cried, begging me for help. I looked at their once arrogant faces numbly. I muttered, I warned you, no matter what you did to me, just don't come to my house. I said it so many times. I turned away and followed Mom. The door closed slowly behind us. I couldn't see their expressions, the despair in their eyes, complete and utter, just like every victim I had ever seen. 22. Inside, the screams continued. Shrill, ear-piercing screams. But our home was well soundproofed. The neighbors wouldn't hear a thing. 23. Even though I had gotten used to it, fear and guilt still brought tears to my eyes. I buried my face in Mom's chest, quietly sobbing. She stroked my hair over and over. After a long while, I whispered, Mom, one day, will you kill me like this too? I heard everything. I'm not really your child, am I? Mom looked at me in surprise, then smiled. You mean what you heard when you were 8? Silly, why would you think you're not our child? I would never lie to you. You're my baby. I carried you for 10 months. Then, I said incredulously. Mom sighed. I didn't want to tell you this, but now you're grown and have the right to know. Your brother, he's the one we found and brought in. We thought he'd be normal, but his personality became extreme. He's naturally sociopathic. We worried he might harm you, so we hesitated about what to do with him. But your brother, he really loves you. I murmured a quiet, clutching her clothes. The screams upstairs abruptly stopped. The door opened slowly. My brother stood on the second floor. I looked up, meeting his face. Even smeared with blood, he looked divine. He seemed to want to wipe the blood off my face to protect me. I realized I was happy. 24. My name is Nadia. My parents are naturally sociopathic. I was unlucky enough to inherit it, but I also learned to hide it well. I knew from age 8 that my brother was adopted. Honestly, when I learned the truth, I felt relief. I love my brother. Loved him so much I wanted to swallow him whole. So him and my body never be apart. To make him protect me, I pretended to be an innocent little flower. Every night he sneaked into my room. I trembled, not from fear, but excitement. I love my family. Even though they killed, sometimes they were careless. The day my brother killed those 2 boys, I cleaned up the scene for him. Years of my father's murders going unpunished. I've been cleaning up after him diligently, even though it was hard, and I had to constantly take care of the aftermath. I still love my parents and my brother the most.